Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to November's webinar. Apologies for anybody who had tried to attempt to join last month's webinar. I do believe we had an issue with the mailing server that we used to send out the invitation, and I do believe it corrupted the link for people to join. This wasn't spotted until very late in the day, so we did have to postpone that webinar. The topic we did use to cover, we were going to cover, apologies, will be run in Q1 of 2014, so I look to run it in either January or February for anybody who wishes to join that session again. Today's session we will look at selecting files for backup, backup sets, and then the support portal. So just basics on the support portal, how to monitor your cases and create cases, and how to contact support if needed. Okay, so my own name, for anybody who hasn't joined us on one of these webinars before, is Niall Fahy. That's Nile like the river in Egypt. So I'm the technical trainer here in Mozy in Ireland. So I'm based out of our Cork office, which is our European HQ. I do all the training for EMEA, Asia, South America also. So anybody who requires training there, I would do the training for them. Internally, that is only our support staff here in Cork. Externally, that would be any partners that would be doing their own technical support. I would go out on site and do training for their support agents as well. So I've been here at Mozy for about 4 years now. I started here doing technical support, and I do all the technical training now. So today's webinar, as I said, we will go over selecting files for backup, using backup sets and when they can be of advantage to you, and then the support portal 101. So the general run through of these is that I'll do a quick presentation here on the slides. I'll then do a walkthrough of the stuff I describe in the slide deck, and then finally we'll do a Q&A. So generally I try to do the first two sections in about 30 to 35 minutes, and then leave the remaining half an hour to 25 minutes open to questions and answers that you may have. If I can answer something for you here, if it's more support orientated, we direct you towards the correct location, or I would follow up with you after the actual session itself. Okay, so just before we get started, some definitions. You may have noticed recently that we've moved away from the license keys that we used to use for registering users, and we've moved towards user types instead. Okay, so we've gone towards keyless activation, where a person can be set up with a number of devices and can just use their email address and password to register these devices, and no longer have to use the license keys that we used to send out before. So that we still have two user types. We have desktop users and server users. So we have our desktop users, just designed for your desktop machines and laptops and so on, and mainly for backing up office documents, pictures, media files, and so on. So your general day-to-day worker, or even your general home user, what they would have backing up. A desktop user can't be installed on a server operating system, so if you are a desktop user and you try to install the client using your account on a server operating system, it will not work. Okay. Server users are designed then obviously for server operating systems, so for your shared network server or so on within your organization. Okay. You can use, as a server user, you can back up desktop machines with also, but it's only server users specifically that can back up network shares or network applications or server operating systems. Okay, so starting off in terms of selecting files and folders, what should we be doing and what should we be selecting? So I suppose individually what everybody will be selecting will be different in terms of their day-to-day work, what's the most important files and folders for them. So that's why I'd always say that ideally you should be selecting the most critical files to you. Okay, so the files that the way I would always look at it is the ones that if your laptop or your work machine in the morning was to fail or was to be stolen or anything was to happen where you wouldn't be able to access your work documents, what are the ones that are critical to you to be able to get back to be able to do your job straight away? You know, like if for me as a trainer, PowerPoint presentations are my most important files. So they're the ones that I would back up over everything else. PowerPoints first, then PDFs and Word documents, all the stuff that I would use for training. They're the most important things for me. So they would be the ones that I would always look to back up first. When you go through the initial setup on Mozy, it selects some default settings, backup sets for you, and some of the most kind of common things that are selected. But these are only just as a guideline. I'd always go in there yourself and have a look at what you're backing up and make sure everything that you very much need on a day-to-day basis is being backed up. Okay, so as I say, various fields will have various important objects. I mean, I suppose for somebody in finance, maybe Excel, you may use a lot of Excel documents, QuickBooks or other accounting software, and they might be the most important things. For somebody in marketing, images and videos may be the most important things. So, you know, pick the most critical files to you, the ones that if in the morning, as I say, anything was to happen to your machine, that you could restore from Mozy and be back up and running in a small way to be able to continue your business, so you don't have as much downtime. And it's all about trying to reduce the downtime if you do need to use our services of restoring. What files should I not select? Well, there's never files that we would say you shouldn't select per se, but files that you may, files that you don't need to back up would be the kind of things like system files, programs downloaded from online, or non-critical files. So if it's your work desktop and you're backing up your iTunes library, for example, there might necessarily be need to back up your iTunes library from, even if it is, say, if it is your laptop and you use it for work, even backing up your iTunes library may not be something you necessarily need to do, because you can sync your iTunes library across multiple machines. So that's something that's non-critical. Or, it might be other files, that you use on a day-to-day basis, but they're not exactly critical files for you. You may type up a couple of Word documents here and there, but, each individual one is not that important, but the critical one might be the template that you use. Okay, so programs downloaded from online, things like Google Chrome, iTunes again, any programs that you can download for free off the internet that you use on a day-to-day basis. These are not exactly, a lot of these are executable files, or DMGs in the cases of a Mac. They're not critical to you. You may use them in your day-to-day work environment, but you can download them faster from the web than you might do creating a restore from Mozy. Because if you think about it, if you back it up to Mozy and you want to restore it, so let's take Google Chrome or Firefox as an example, you have to create the restore with Mozy, then download it from Mozy, and then install it. Whereas you could just as easily go to the Firefox or the Google Chrome download page and download that file straight away. So you're actually increasing the time you need to restore a file that's available online a lot faster. System files are another thing. We see this from time to time where somebody might select their entire C drive to back up. If you try to select, if you have your settings window open in front of you right now and you try and select the entire C drive, you get a pop-up saying, do you really want to do this? There's a lot of files in here that you don't necessarily need to back up. There's a lot of files in there that even if you back them up, they're no good to you when you restore. Let's say, for example, system files for a Windows machine. If you buy a new laptop after your existing one crashes, all those system files are going to be on there. So the time it took you to back them up and the bandwidth you used to back them up has been pretty much wasted, because they're no good to you when you restore them, because they're already on your new machine. So again, it's not files that we shouldn't back up, but just examples of certain ones that you may not need to back up. So that's just in terms of selecting files and folders. Again, I'll go through a walkthrough in a second, just to show you the selection options and things to look out for when you are selecting files and stuff like that. Next one here we look at is backup sets. So how can backup sets help me? Okay, so selecting individual files and folders is okay if you have specific things you want to select, but backup sets can be very useful as well. So they group specific files together for you by type or by location. That, you know, these are the ones that when you install Mozy initially, there's some default backup sets selected. Okay, so these are some common ones we get. So you'll see things like My Documents, Word processing documents, Excel, Microsoft Outlook. These are kind of some of the default ones that we have there available. It just allows you to select. So for example, as I go back to myself again as an example, PowerPoint is obviously a backup set that I select. By selecting that PowerPoint backup set, it searches my entire computer for PowerPoint presentations and backs them up. So if I create, no matter where on the machine that I create a PowerPoint, as long as I save it to my machine, it will get picked up because I'm using the PowerPoint backup set. Whereas if I was selecting individual files and folders, I'd have to make sure that I have the folder selected where I save this new PowerPoint presentation if I want it to be backed up. Whereas with backup sets, as long as it matches the rules for my backup set, no matter where I save it on the machine, and as long as I'm searching that location, then it'll pick it up for backup. It also allows you to include and exclude certain types of files or particular locations and stuff like that. So we'll look at it in a second how to exclude files, because that can be a bit tricky on Windows machines. Okay. Another advantage of backup sets, or a good one to use if you're using a server, is Vss Backup Sets. Okay, so Vss Backup Sets are created by the system. So if you have SQL or Exchange or Active Directory installed on your server when Mozy is installed and we do a scan of the system, we will pick up these Vss Backup Sets. So these are created by the system when it picks up on the fact that there's a SQL writer there or an Exchange writer there to create snapshots of those servers. So VSS is Volume Shadow Copy Service. It's a Microsoft service that allows us to back up open files. For anybody who hasn't encountered it before, for some it may be something that you use or you have encountered on a daily basis. We use this VSS as well on the desktop client to back up open files there, but for servers, in terms of servers specifically, there are some VSS backup sets that are created by default and only on server machines. Okay, so why would you use a VSS backup set of, say, Exchange rather than just going in and selecting the Exchange server from your Files and Folders tab within the Settings window? You could do that. You could select it in the Files and Folders tab, okay, and select the entire Exchange server and back that up. The problem is that on the Files and Folders tab, we're using the system writer to back up open files. Okay, so the system writer is on every machine. Okay, it's on your desktop as well as your laptop. And when a casual desktop user is, say, working on their laptop and they have Excel opened or they've Word opened or anything like that, and they're running a backup and that file is selected for backup, we use that system writer to back up that open file. It's only, the system writer really is only meant to be used in cases of 2 or 3 open files and stuff like that. With an Exchange server, it can be quite large, depending on your organization. Even an organization, say, of 200 people, it can be quite busy. So for anybody who doesn't know, Exchange works on the basis of transaction logs. Okay, so there's a temporary transaction log. Okay, and as transactions are taking place on the Exchange server, so things like sending mails, receiving mails, deleting mails, anything that happens, so when you're using your Outlook or your emails and work, these are recorded in the transaction logs. And when the temporary transaction log gets to 5 megabytes in size, it spills over and creates a permanent log file. So you could have hundreds of these log files before the next time a backup runs. So if you do a restore, when you select the files and folders, you're selecting all those log files, okay? And you'd have to rebuild all those log files individually if anything should happen. Also, when running the backup, obviously your Exchange server is going to be opened all the time. You can't close your Exchange server because people are connecting to it to use their mails. Okay, so that means that the temp log file is always opened, and you're trying to take a snapshot of it with System Writer. Unfortunately, the System Writer is not designed to deal with the pace at which the Exchange server works at. So sometimes, often than not, what happens is it breaks it. So you end up getting a file system error or something like that. So that's why we encourage our users who are backing up Exchange or Active Directory or SQL Server and stuff like that to use Vss Backup Sets. Why? Because Vss Backup Sets, they back up about, generally for an Exchange server, it's about 5 or 6 database files. So these are the database files that are created from the transaction log files. From all those transactions that are occurring, it creates these temporary databases that we take a snapshot of. Also because there's a specific created writer for Exchange, for Active Directory, and for SQL Server that is designed to work at the pace at which these work at and can cope with the changes and stuff like that. And the easiest one of all, the biggest reason we recommend using Vss Backup Sets, it's a lot easier to restore Exchange or Active Directory or SQL Server using Vss Backup Sets on VSS restores, because all Exchange servers and SQL servers and Active Directory will have a built-in wizard to use those as a restore option. Okay, so as an administrator, it's a lot easier to rebuild your database when it's needed. So I'll just leave that there. I know because it's not applicable to everybody. If there's any more specific questions at the end, you can ask away, and I'll try and answer them. So on Windows, this is specific to Windows. To exclude files, there is a process that you have to go through. So we use Windows logic for creating backup sets. So in order to exclude certain items, you need to include them first. So the easiest way to think of backup sets is that you're just creating a container or a box that you're putting things into to actually back up. Okay, and I'll show you this in more detail when we're going through the walkthrough and the example in a second. But basically what I mean is that if you want to exclude something, you need to include it into your backup set first and then exclude that backup set from backups. And I'll show you what I mean by that with the example. It's a bit easier to show you rather than trying to explain it. Okay. Mac, for those users who are using Mac desktops, okay, so Mac itself doesn't have backup sets, but if you have your settings window opened on Mac and you click in the bottom right hand corner, you just see the edge of it here, the advanced section, it opens up this window. And in Mac, unlike Windows, it follows a very simple procedure. Up the top here, you have backup, and down here, don't backup. So by clicking on this arrow here and dropping down the menu, you can create an advanced backup set and using a Spotlight query, or you can select particular files and folders or locations that you want to back up and create them here. Once you create a custom backup rule, it gets a purple folder like this one here. Okay, so it's straightforward enough. If you want to back up something, you put it in here. If you don't want to back up a particular area, folder, or something like that, you put it into this section down here. Okay. The support portal, okay, so we can access this by browsing to support.mozy.com, log in there, and then click on My Support. Okay. Once logged in there, you can open a support case, review your existing cases that are opened, and you can also obtain your support ID to call support. Or if you choose, you can open up a live chat as well with support. Okay. So probably the better part of this now is I'll go through the demonstration. So first of all, I go through a selecting file demonstration, then backup sets, and then using the support portal. Okay. So we'll just open up the settings window here. And this will be going through, as I'm working on a Windows machine, we will be going through the Windows client. Okay, so as we were saying a while ago, so the file system is where you can select individual files and folders for backup, and then backup sets is where you can select particular backup sets for backup. So first of all, we just go through the file system set. Okay, so if you're a server user, you'll see this option here for adding network shares. Okay, so here you just put in, you click on that option, and you put in the share name or the share location that you have, and if you need to, you put in the username and password. Okay. Selecting files and folders, as I mentioned a while ago, if you try and select the entire machine, okay, it will give you a warning saying it's not recommended that you back up the entire disk. Okay. And it explains there why, because much of the data won't actually function correctly even if it is restored. Okay. So if you open up any of these, your directories, you'll see all your individual folders and so on. So for example, if I click on my documents here, I'll see the files that are directly underneath my documents. And if I open it up further, I'll see the folders within there. Okay. So if I want to back up, so for example, I want to back up my documents. If I select the folder here, you will see that the background stays white. Okay. And the folder here has taken on a green tick mark. What does that mean? That means that I've selected the folder and its entire contents, but also when I get this green mark here on the folder, it means that any file that I save into this location will also be picked up in future for backups. So now that I've done that, I can deselect certain folders if I want. I can deselect certain files. But notice now that the background has gone gray on here. Okay, so that just means that the folder itself is selected, but not all files within the folder are selected. But the green, as long as the green tick mark stays here, it does mean that going forward, any files that I save into the My Documents structure will be picked up for backup. Whereas if I was to come in here and select all these files, okay, notice at the root level of My Documents, it's not I've lost the green tick there. So that means that if I save anything into My Documents and it's not in, obviously if it's in here, a new file won't be picked up for backup. So just if you are selecting by files and folders because that suits you better, I would just say that you should always make sure that you get that little green check mark on the folder to make sure that any new files that you save into that location will be picked up for backup. It just means it takes away from you having to remember that, oh, I've created a new Excel sheet, I need to remember to add that into my backups. As long as you have that green tick there, it'll pick up the file for backup going forward. Okay, this is the same on Mac. It's similar on Mac. Sorry, instead of the white background with the checkbox and the grayed out background, you'll have green and orange gems. So the green means the folder and its entire contents are selected. An orange gem in the Mac means that similar to on Windows when you have the checkbox ticked with the grey background, that files within the folder itself is selected, but not all the files within the folder are selected. Okay. So backup sets, as I was mentioning a while ago, great for selecting files grouped in certain locations. Just note that when you select files here in My Documents, okay, they will show up as selected in file system as well. So that does mean that if you deselect a file, so if you deselected an individual file here, it will get deselected in the file system tab as well. Okay, if you select a backup set, or if you deselect a file in the file system tab, it gets deselected as well in the backup sets tab. Okay, so they do mirror each other. It doesn't mean that you're using double the amount of quota. It's just showing you that it is selected elsewhere. Okay, So these are the default backup sets here that we have. Okay, so this is showing all backup sets. In this instance, if there's a situation where there's no files within the backup sets, by default, this option here is deselected. Okay, and you only see the files, or you only see the backup sets that have files within them. Okay, so if there's no files within a backup set, they don't populate. If you want to show all files like that, you just go into Options, Advanced, and Show All Pre-configured Backup Sets. Okay. Coming back to backup sets, if you want to edit any backup set, just right-click it and edit, or you can remove a backup set if you don't like it. Okay, so if you then want to create a new backup set yourself, just right-click here, Add Backup Set, give your backup set a name, select the search location that you want it to search in, and then add a rule. Okay, so what I will do here is name it test, search my entire machine. Okay, we'll just search my own folder. Okay, include file type, and we'll say .mp3. Okay, so that scans the system and returns my backup set to me here, and I have 279 files, 279 and 2.2 gigs selected. Okay, notice that here on my music file, you will see that I have, even if I select this, okay, so even if I had this selected and I created this backup set, it doesn't mean again that I'm not backing up double the amount of storage. It's just showing in both because it's relevant to both backup sets. Okay, so here you can see I have 3.2 gigs of music in total for a total of 426 files. So if it was a situation that I only wanted to exclude .mp3s from my backup. Now, this is where the Windows client is a bit confusing, and it's probably the hardest rule or the hardest part of the Windows backup client really. In here in the rules, you have include and exclude. Okay, so logically, when people are looking at it, they'll say, okay, I'll just hit exclude, and what that'll do for me is that it'll exclude MP3s from that backup, and I'll be okay. Not true. What we must remember is that these backup sets are just containers. If, like, a box or anything like that you want to use, so probably a box is the best visual to think of. And whatever you're creating, you're putting, so in the instance where in here, when I'm including MP3s, what I'm doing is I'm creating a box and I'm putting MP3 file into the box. Okay? And that's my backup set then. If I select that backup set, I'm backing up what's in the box. If I hit exclude here, exclude MP3s, what I'm telling my container to do here is that I'm telling it, okay, in my search location, search for every single file on the machine, but exclude MP3s from my box. So I'm putting all my files and folders into the box, and I'm leaving outside MP3s as the only thing I don't want to put into the box. Okay, and as you see, that returns 8,200 files for 4.3 gigs. Okay, so it selected absolutely everything on my machine except those MP3 files. Now, what if it is a situation where I want to exclude the files? What I do instead here is include, okay, but I need to select an option in the Options tab. So I go down here to Options and go to Advanced and select this option here, Show Advanced Backup Set Features. I select that, okay, come back to Backup Sets, right-click here on my test one, edit it, and now I have this option here. Files matching this backup set will be excluded from the final backup set. I select this, hit OK, and I click down here, and you'll see now that my test backup set has gone red. Okay, in the right-hand pane here, we can see that all these files are now locked, and I can't select them. Okay, and notice as well, I had the music backup set selected, and that has dropped down to 153 of 426 files selected. And if I go in here and I scroll down, there are those MP3 files as well, and they're locked there and I can't select them. Okay, so that an exclusionary rule in the Windows backup client will always supersede an inclusion rule. Okay, so if you want to exclude something, that's obviously something you've thought about. So we want to make sure that that's obeyed more so than any inclusion rule. Okay, so if it is a true exclusionary rule, it will go red like this, and the files won't be able to be selected. Okay, so that's if you want to exclude particular file types or anything like that. You can also do it by file size, and by the last modified date, by the created date, before, after, or between certain dates. You can do it by file name, okay, is not. There's various options there as well, okay, and folder name, okay. So you can add then additional rules in, but just know that the rules have to work together for the overall rule to work, okay. You can also, if you want to, edit any of the existing backup set rules. So if it was a situation where you want to exclude music and you definitely didn't want any music to be backed up, you could just hit the exclude option there, and it'll show you there all the file types that it's searching for. If there's a particular music file that you have maybe you have a particular file type that you use with some software that's not listed there, just add it in, hit OK, and it'll exclude all music from the backup set. Okay, and then if you want to, you can just remove a backup set like that. Okay, so I'll leave that there. If there's any more questions on backup sets or file selection, we'll take it in the Q&A section. I'll just quickly show you now the support section. Okay, so you come to support.mozy.com. Up the top here, you'll have the login button if you're not logged in. Okay, so you log in there with your credentials, and then you click on My Support up here. Okay. Once you're into the support section, this is what it looks like. Okay, so your support ID is listed here. So this is the one you will need if you phone us using one of the phone numbers listed down here, depending on your geolocation. You will be prompted for your support ID. Okay, so that's just so that we know that you're entitled to phone support. You can also chat live here. So just clicking on this will open up a chat, and it will open up a chat in the queues for you with the support agents. Okay. Your cases will be listed here. Okay, so it'll give you your information on your case. You want to click on the case, it'll give you the case details. If support are working with you through comments, you'll see the comments in here. Okay, so you can put in comments there yourself and add them, and support will see them. Support can reply back to you with a comment, and you'll see it there. Or if you prefer, you can email them. Okay, so you will get emails from support on the issue, depending which way you want to deal with the situation. Okay, and if you want to add files to the case, okay, so maybe like the log files or something like that, you can upload them here as well. Okay, and this goes into our ticketing system, which is Salesforce. Okay, you can also close the case at any time yourself if you wish, if you feel the issue is resolved or anything like that. And that's just on existing cases. Okay. To create a case, it's straightforward enough. Click on the Create Case button. Okay. Put in the information. Okay. The status of the case obviously is going to be new, and then a case reason. Okay. So let's say I'm getting an error code. As you type in a subject, so the subject maybe in this case is that I'm getting an error code, so I'm getting a file system error 4. Okay. Once you go to put in a description, you'll notice here we get a little load. Okay, and this will present to you some knowledge base articles that could be relevant to your case. So if you click on one of those, so we click on the file system error 4. It'll take us to a knowledge base article with some steps to carry out to maybe try before you open the case, if you wish. You may have already tried these steps, but it'll just give them to you there, just in case you haven't, and you would prefer maybe to deal with the situation yourself. Put in a brief description here. As I said, if it is a situation where you've carried out the KB article, maybe just put in already tried KB, and it's not working. Okay, and at least then when you submit that case, when the person picks it up in support, they can discount that issue straight away in terms of the knowledge base article, so they're not wasting your time sending you back out the same steps again. Okay, so that's just creating a case. If you prefer to troubleshoot issues yourself first, or like that, as I say, as you put in the case description and stuff like that, and the problem, the actual subject name of it, it will prompt you with some KB articles. You can also just go directly to our knowledge base as well at support.mozy.com and come in here and search the knowledge base. Okay, so there's some solutions there. There's FAQs, there's common error messages and stuff like that you can search. Okay, and also we have our community. Our community is really good. It's just forums, and here we allow customers to interact with each other. So customers can, sorry there. So the community is just forums so that people can come in, lodge, create a forum post about maybe an issue they're having or something they've noticed, and other people can interact with it. Same as any other forum. If you've been on one forum, they're all the exact same, as you will know. The advantage here is that you can see, if you go to Mozy for Windows, for example, as we're on Windows, you see some of the common threads here at the moment, okay, and stuff like that. When you're logged in as well, you can see under documentation, you can see some user guides and admin guides and stuff like that. So support.mozy.com is a good location to go to. You have tutorials here as well. This webinar gets uploaded there. As you can see, they get uploaded here, but there's also some tutorials there on some common areas of the Mozy interface. Okay, like the admin console, Mozy for Windows, Mozy for Mac. And it just goes through some of the basic stuff if you want to use it. Okay, so how to increase storage and stuff like that, how to create a new user, and so on. So they're useful areas. So that's it in terms of my presentation and the walkthrough. I'll take any questions and answers that people have now. If you want to use the questions box. Okay. For anybody who doesn't have any questions and maybe leaving the session, thank you very much for joining for this month's webinar. We will be running a webinar again in December. I'm conscious, obviously, that our usual date will be Christmas week, so I will run it the week before Christmas. I do believe that is it's the 18th, I think, of December. That we will look to run that. Okay. And in that, I do think I have the topic shall be the Mozy Sync software. So our new sync software that will be launching. So for anybody who hasn't seen it or wasn't involved in the beta, that's our synchronization software that we have that allows you to, similar to other synchronization software that you may know, whereby you can install the software on multiple machines and you can share your files and folders across your multiple devices that you have. Okay, so Nash, just in terms of your question, so Nash's question was Exchange backups. Are you saying I should not do it separately and let it do it through VSS? I would recommend that you should use the VSS backup, the VSS Exchange backup set. Yeah, if you're backing up Exchange, primarily because the VSS backup set is created by the system. It's not created by Mozy, so it's actually picking up the fact that there's a VSS Exchange writer there that's designed to be used for backing up open files in Exchange. Okay, and that backup set then is created, so it's then backing up the specific databases to allow you then to do a restore should anything go wrong with your Exchange. So yeah, definitely, I would say you would better to use the VSS backup sets, and you'll see that even if you go to Microsoft's forums and stuff like that and see Exchange and restoring Exchange, they'll talk about using VSS backup sets of Exchange to restore it. It's just a lot easier for yourself as well to restore it when you're going to that situation where you need to restore an Exchange. If you ever have the unfortunate need to do that, you have a built-in wizard in Exchange to use VSS backup sets to restore your Exchange. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Gary, okay, so go through the sequence again to exclude a set. Yeah, no problem. I'll go back through that. Okay, so just on excluding, so if you want to exclude a backup set, okay, so if you want to exclude a backup set, okay, so first and foremost, the first thing you need to do is come in here to Options and Advanced and tick this option here, Show Advanced Backup Set Features. Okay, so this is not selected by default, so do select that. Then come back into your backup sets. Okay, so if it's a situation where you want to just want to exclude one of the existing backup sets, go to right-click on one of the backup sets and edit it. Okay. And you don't have to do anything because these will all be inclusion here, and you just tick this option, okay, and that'll exclude it. The backup set itself will go red, and you won't be able to select the options or the files, okay. Even if you try and do it through the File System tab, you won't be able to do it. If it's that you want to create your own backup set, you add the backup set here, okay. You name it, select your search location, and then you add your rule, okay. So the one we did a second ago, so we'll search my machine, we'll add a rule, and we're going to do it by file type, and we'll say .doc, okay? And we're going to include that. Hit OK. So now, obviously what we've done there is we've created our box, and we put .docs into the box. So all our Word document files, we put them into our backup set box here, and that's what we're going to use to back up. So we've selected that now. That means that all my Word document files are going to be backed up, okay? Now if we go back in here, and what we actually want to do is exclude them. We don't want to back up Word documents. We leave it like this and tick this option. If you come down here and hit exclude, okay, and hit OK, again what it does, as we can see here, is it selects every single file in my search location except the .doc. Okay, so except my Word document files. So in reason, what it's doing is it's taking your box, which is your backup set, and you're saying exclude. So with our rule, we're saying exclude file type .doc from my backup set here, which is not what you want to do if you're excluding a file. Okay, so if you just don't want to back something up, this is the wrong way to do it. Okay. If it's a situation where you don't want to back up something, what you should do instead is include it first, and then tick this box here. So this is what we refer to in Mozy as including to exclude. So we include Word documents in our backup set, and then we tick it to be excluded. Okay, that goes red, and now we can't back up these Word documents. So I hope that answers the question for you, Gary, sorry, and let me know if you need me to go back through it any further. Nash, okay. Yeah, so yeah, Nash, in that sense, if you are selecting the Exchange server through the File System tab, I would definitely recommend selecting the Exchange server through the backup sets. Because as I say, they are created by the system from the VSS writer that is actually installed when you install Exchange. Okay, so and it's designed to work with Exchange for backing up that. Because as I say, when you're using the File System tab, you're using the system writer, which is only generally designed to be backing up, kind of your general files and folders that you might have on your own machine. It's not designed to deal with the kind of complex build-up and workload that Exchange would have. And you'd know yourself, obviously, you're probably an admin on the Exchange server, and you'd know how much traffic can be on an Exchange server. No problem, Gary. Okay, perfect. Is there any other questions? Okay, so I'll leave it open there for another 2 or 3 minutes to see if we have any more questions come through. For everybody else, if you don't have any questions, thank you very much for joining. I know it's taken some time out of your day to sit here and listen to me natter on, but really appreciate it, and hopefully you've gained something from it as well as me being here delivering it for you. As I say, we'll be running our next webinar in December, and I will be running it the week before Christmas, probably the Wednesday before Christmas. So I think it's the 18th of December, something along those lines. We'll run it that day, and it will be on the Mozy Sync software. So as I said, for anybody who wasn't in the beta, it might be a good chance to see the software and how it works. Okay. And also, before I forget, I do believe tomorrow will be Thanksgiving for those of you in the States, so I hope you all enjoy the day and have some good time with family. My pleasure. Thanks very much for joining, Nash. Okay, so that seems to be all the questions we have. I will be sending out, I always do, I will send out, this session was recorded, so I will send out the link to the recording when we host it on our support forums. I do send out the link to those who have attended the session, and I will also send out the slide deck.